Yo, what is going on, everybody? This is Mysticall, and today I'm bringing you the 7.3 PvP guide from Mistweaver monks. I'm going to try and make this as in-depth but short as possible. I'm going to do my best, so let's get right into it. Let's talk about why you want to play Mistweaver monk. It's no secret that Mistweaver monks are the least represented and the least played healer in the game. I play it because it's fun. That's pretty much it. They're competitive, especially with melee cleaves, which I'll talk about later in the video, but mostly because they're fun. Their playstyle is awesome. That being said, in PvP, other healers can do what we do, but better. Age Pallies have 2 bops, 2 sacks, and bubble. Druids have Iron Bark, Shaman just have, interrupts and grounding and earthern. But Mistweavers, they're fun. They're unique. There's not a single healer like it, so that's why I play it. Now let's get right into the races. So if you're playing Alliance, you want to be human. The human racial is just too good to pass up. If you don't want to play a human and you're having trouble with boomies, you can run gnome for escape artist to get out of root beam. And if you don't like gnome, night elf was honestly my favorite race in the game. I wish I was still night elf, but the human racial with all the melee cleaves is just too good. If you're Horde, as a Mistweaver, you're going to play Orc, no matter what. Even if you like Trolls or Blood Elves, wait, can Trolls be monks? Yeah. You're not going to want to play anything else besides Monk. Orc Relent is too good, especially with Sub-Rogues being so good, and Warriors and Demon Hunters and Death Knights. So yeah, Orc if you're Horde, Human if you're Alliance, and let's get right into talents. Alright, so these are the regular talents. I'm just going to go tier by tier and try and explain the best picks and picks that you could change up depending on what you're playing against and what you're playing with. So in the level 15 tier, it really doesn't matter, to be honest. All of these don't do that much healing. Chi Wave is pretty good. The bounce is pretty good. It does a good amount of damage. It does a good amount of healing depending on how close your partners are. So if you're playing melee versus melee, it'll get quite a few bounces and heal up to 7 times at least. This is usually the first heal I do when an arena match starts, so it's pretty good. Zen Pulse, I've tried it, and this patch I've tried it. It does close to like no healing. Even when you have like BM Hunters on you, it really doesn't do that much healing. And Chi Burst, I really only use it with Way of the Crane, and you have to cast it too, so you also run the risk of being interrupted. So I don't run Chi Burst in Arena. It's primarily going to be Chi Wave. In level 30 tier, Chi Torpedo is going to be your main talent. I have not run these that much. Tiger's Lust sometimes when I play with a Death Knight that's struggling against a mage to touch them, or a hunter. But honestly, Chi Torpedo is the best. It helps you in quite a few ways. The first way is if you need to get an in-cap stun on a healer or an off DPS and they're ranged, Chi Torpedo is great for rolling in, getting that in cap, and then if they see that you pushed in, you could either Chi Torpedo out, which you might not want to do because that would be your second Chi Torpedo, or you can port. So it helps you get in and out of the enemy team. If you're overextended, you can easily just Chi Torpedo back out. So it's really nice and helpful, and you also can get away from melee pretty easily with it, especially with a 30% increase to movement speed. So Chi Torpedo pretty much every time. Level 45, Mist Wrap, don't ever spec out of it. It increases Enveloping Mist by 1 second, and it's healing by 10%. Enveloping Mist is your primary heal, I'll talk about it later. But also you can channel Soothing Mist while moving, so that's insane. So what that means is normally, if you spec out of it, you can only Soothing Mist stationary. You can't move, because as soon as you move, it'll cancel it if you were any other talent. But with this talent, you could do this. Mostly you can... if like that's your arena partner, you could Soothing Mist them, and then you could just move in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. So it's really hard for enemy teams to get crowd control on you without a setup, of course. So Rogue Mage, maybe the Rogue Mage is here, and obviously your teammate's taking damage. You can Enveloping Mist, and then dart behind the pillar, back out, F-use. The only way they'll be able to get set up on you is if you're out here and they catch you in a cheap shot into Poly, or Hodge into Poly, or something like that, or Grip into Shockwave, or something like that, so it makes it really hard for teams to crowd control you, which is really good. It's really good if you can see that they want to crowd control you. In the level 60 tier, Song of Chi-Ji is almost never used. I use it sometimes to troll in 2s. You can incap into Song of Chi-Ji, and that's like 8 seconds. But it's not worth it in 3s. There's too many interrupts. Ring of Peace I use against melee cleaves. So, you know, what's it called? Blade's Edge, TSG, Turbo, DH Warrior, Windwalker DK, stuff like that on Blade's Edge. I use Ring of Peace. I also do it against Rogue Mage sometimes because I don't want to overextend. Plus, you can Ring of Peace while one of your teammates is in a bomb, which is great. Primarily, though, you're going to want to run leg sweep. Let me switch to it now so no one gets confused. You're going to want to run leg sweep because it's just a 5-second AoE stun. Like, it's just a good stun. It's AoE, 5 seconds. If there's a team on you, you can leg sweep and roll away. Leg sweep and port, anything like that. You'll probably be using it for in-cap stuns on healers. So if you're playing Turbo and Heroism up, it really works well or lines up well with Hero. So in-cap stun every go. It's really hard for teams to survive that kind of setup. And level 75, I'm usually healing elixirs because, first of all, I'll talk about it in a little bit, but it works really well with Vim and Vigor. But also, the only time you die is 1, if you run out of mana, which, I mean, you should have gotten a kill before then, or 2, in a stun. Healing elixirs, as you can see, heals 15% of your maximum health and is automatically procced when you get below 35% health. So what that means is even if you're silenced, stunned, interrupted, if you drop below 35%, one of these is going to proc. So it helps you survive and like live through the stun so you could port or leg sweep or roll away. So it's really good. Diffuse Magic really haven't used that often because Healing Elixir is just too good, and I really haven't used Dampen Harm. It might be good against Boomy Destrolock, but they very rarely focus you. So stick with Healing Elixirs. Level 90, I never use Refreshing Jade Wind. I haven't really found a use for it. I try it in RBGs, but it just doesn't work. You just go too fast, especially with the nerf to away the crane mana. Invoke Chi-Ji I use against Dot Cleave, so Shadow Priest, Warlock, Shadow Priest Boomy Destrolock, stuff like that. You know, casters with spread pressure I use Chi-Ji with, and I'll explain in a sec why. But primarily you're going to want to run Summon Jade Serpent Statue. It's just a really good heal, pretty good for single target, and you can use it while you're LOS, but your target can't be LOS, so remember that. So if you're LOS, if this is your statue, and you're casting Soothing Mist on your partner right here. Oh no, right here. So as long as this statue is in line with this thing, it'll heal it. But if all of a sudden this X comes right around the pillar and your statue is over here, it's going to stop channeling the heal. So it's really good when you're playing melee and you're playing against melee because you'll be in the middle of the map mostly. Invoke Chi-Ji, it's a 3-minute cooldown, so it's really, you don't get much use out of it, unfortunately, but it's still pretty good against those spread pressure Dock Leaves. And in the final row, Mana Tea. You have no other way of getting mana back unless you run Spirit of the Crane, but you don't want to spec out a Mistwrap. So Mana Tea is your only way to reduce mana cost, and you need to think of Mana Tea, and I'll talk about how to conserve mana in a little bit. You're going to want to Protected Mana Tea is like a real big cooldown. Like, it's almost more as important as your Life Cocoon. Like, that's what you need to, like, these are both a minute and a half. You could rotate these cooldowns and conserve so much mana. I'm telling you, it's really good, and it's weird to explain, but I'll have a whole section of it. But Mana Tea is going to be your best. If you're running Way of the Crane, Rising Thunder is going to be your best, and I only use Focused Thunder when I'm using Counteract Magic, and I'll explain when to use Counteract Magic in the Honor Talents. So, we have Honor Talents now. As a human, you never want to run Relentless, ever. You have the human ratio to get out of stuns. There's not really any other comps that you're going to want to run Relentless. It just doesn't make sense, because you have a way to get out of stuns on your own. Adapt, I usually use Adapt against Turbo. You know, teams with, like, not that much crowd control, maybe. Don't use it against Windwalker DK, because you need to trinket for Touch of Death in case they swap to you. But teams with low CC and setup, you're going to want to run Adapt. In any other scenario, as human, you're going to want to run Gladiator's Medallion. It's just a really good trinket. I mean, you could rotate trinket and human racial all day, and you could just constantly rotate, especially against melee cleaves. Now, if you're Orc Hardiness and Relentless is huge. It's amazing against sub-rogues, all the melee cleaves. I really run Relentless on my Horde Monk a lot, but there are times where obviously you're going to want to run Trinket. I don't really run Adept on Orc. So if you're human, don't run Adept. If you're Orc, don't run Adept. If you're human, don't run Relentless. If you're Horde, don't run Adept. And then Medallion if you feel like you have to. In the second tier, it's Defender of the Weak or Vim and Vigor. So Vim and Vigor is best used when teams don't have that much crowd control, but they won't focus you. So a good example of this is like Turbo. They won't focus you ever, and they don't have that much crowd control because you're adept to Fear or Hex on you. So Vim and Vigor is fine. The only time you want to run Defender of the Weak is versus comps with a ton of crowd control. So RMD, RMP, Rogue Mage, pretty much anything. Cupid is also another comp that Defender of the Weak is really good against. Beast Cleave, which is Enhance. Hunter, you're going to want to run Defender of the Weak because you're going to be in so much crowd control that you're going to need to stabilize your teammates as fast as you can. So Defender of the Weak versus comps with a lot of crowd control, and Vim and Vigor any other time. In the third row, Yu'lon's Gift every time. I really don't use Eminence that often unless it's in 2s and I'm playing against a Windwalker so I can get a shorter port to get away. Fast Feet, I never used it. Yu'lon's Gift, Chi Torpedo will dispel all snares affecting you when used. Really good against every melee. Good against casters with slows like Frost Mages. Yeah, Yu'lon's Gift you're going to want to run. It helps with kiting and pushing in and out of the enemy team. Now in the fourth tier, this is usually where you have a little like a little battle between two of these, you know, where two of these might be pretty good. But with this patch, and trust me, I've tried it this patch with this tier. There's just so much damage, you can't keep up with Surge and Mist. Enveloping Mist with a 7-second cooldown is just, it's too long of a cooldown. It's just too long. Plus, you have to cast, Effuses and Vivifies to get healing out. You run the risk of being interrupted. It's just not worth it. Wade the Crane also just doesn't do enough damage. And you go relatively fast, you know? I haven't really found a good way to use Wade the Crane. If you're going to cheese like a comp and you want to one-shot somebody with Walking Dead or DH Warrior, you could run Wade the Crane, but it's just not good. You're not going to live long enough to get a kill. AMA is going to be your best choice in this tier. Now, if you don't, or if you didn't notice the change or it feels weird, they did nerf it. They made the global 1 second cooldown instead of 0.5, which is what it usually is. So as you can see, when I use Soothing Mist, everything else refreshes after a ½ second, but Soothing Mist refreshes after 1 global. It makes the healing rotation or the healing in PvP a little bit choppy, which is unfortunate because I don't think the nerf, if you want to call it a nerf, was reasonable. I don't know who's complaining about it, but that's just how it is. Nothing we can do about it. So just run AMA, and I'll explain how to heal with it in a later section. Let's just get through these talents. So in the fifth tier, we have Chrysalis, Counteract Magic, Dome of Mist. Dome of Mist you're going to want to use against teams with 2 purges. So Shaman, Priest, Shaman, Mage, Mage, Priest. Any combination of those 3, I use Dome of Mist because they should be purging as often as they can. Counteract Magic is good against the Spell Cleaves, or not Spell Cleaves, Rock Cleaves. So Affliction Lock Boomy, Affliction Lock Shadow Priest Boomy, Shadow Priest Destro. Any combination of teams that are going to rot you down, use Counteract Magic. In any other scenario, you're going to want to run Chrysalis. It's really good against most teams that aren't rotting you or don't have 2 purges. It's just good. It's just a short cooldown. You could use as your first cooldown if you want and just get the cooldown rolling. And in the final tier, it's really between Fortune Turned and Healing Sphere. So Fortune Turn is really good for single target healing. So against those melee cleaves or even WLS, you're going to want to run Fortune Turn for the single target healing. You have pretty good spread healing, but it really helps single target wise, and I'll show you how to use it in a little bit. The other talent is Healing Sphere. Again, I keep saying the rock comps, but Healing Sphere versus rock comps, you know, the Shadow Priest Boomies, Shadow Priest Affliction Locks, any combination of rotting teams, you're gonna want to run Healing Sphere. So if I'm running, if I'm playing, I don't know, TSG and I queue into a turbo, this is what I'll be running. If I'm on Blade's Edge, I'll run Ring of Peace, but if I'm not, I'm gonna run Leg Sweep. And then I will use these. If it's a turbo, I'll actually run Adapt versus melee cleaves, especially turbo. Now, if it is a whatchamacallit, a rot team, just so you can see it. If I'm playing against like Affliction Lock Boomy, I'm gonna roll Healing Sphere, put that in my bar. Counterarts Magic. I'm gonna run Focus Thunder and invoke Chi-Ji. Focus Thunder. You run that when you're running Counterarts Magic. That way you can get Enveloping Mists on every single one of your partners. Chi-Ji is pretty good for spread healing. Because, I mean, they can't burst like every so often. You know, they have burst maybe once every 2 minutes. So you have Chi-Ji out fairly often. And, yeah, now if I'm playing against Cupid, or RMD, I'm going to run Defender of the Weak. I'm going to run these two. And let's say it's RMD, so I'll run Ring of Peace because I don't want to push out of my pillar. I'll run Chi-Ji in this because you're not going to be losing mana when you're in crowd control. Like if you're polyed half the game, that means you're not using mana. So you don't need to run Mana Tea, you know? I hope that makes sense. And Chi-Ji just because I'll be in crowd control. So I need something to be healing me or healing my teammates while I'm in crowd control. And that pretty much does it for talents and honor talents. Let's talk about how to actually heal on a Mistweaver. Alright, so we're just going to pretend I'm in an arena. I'm playing Turbo, and they're playing TSG. Yeah, that's good. The arena starts, and you want to put your stature down immediately. Now, if it's a Shadow Priest, or Mage, or pretty much any caster, don't put your statue down too far, because they can build up their resources fast. Like, Shadow Priest can build up their Insanity, Mages can build up their Icicles, Boomies can build up their Astral Power, you know, stuff like that. So make sure your statue is far behind. If you're going to push in and you're going to reposition, like let's say you obviously don't roll in Mountain, and you push in, just put your statue around here. Now, let's take this map, for example, in the Grand Arena. Let's just talk about positioning real quick. If you're here, make sure your team is here. You want your team here. And that's very important. You do not, I repeat, do not have your team push in on this side of the pillar. This is where your team dies. Your team dies when they push in over here. I'll explain why. So Mistweavers are very susceptible to crowd control. If I'm on this pillar right here and your team is right here, you could just do this all day. You could just little dance all day. All day. Enveloping a fuse all day. Now, as soon as they push in behind this pillar, you're going to have to push out. You're going to have to push out maybe here, or if they're pushing on the other side, you're going to have to push in here. Now, this actually isn't a bad position. I'm not going to lie. This is I like this position. But if they're pushing in here and then they go around the outside right here, this is Skull. They're dead here. Because then you push in and then any team will get crowd control on you. Or they can swap to you in a stun if you don't have Trinket. So just make sure that you let your team know if their positioning is bad. So it doesn't matter if they're going to get a cure or not. Make sure they're positioned well, because if you're not positioned well, you will die or you will get put into crowd control. So that's just a little key thing about positioning. Now, put your statue down and make sure you have a port away from the enemy team, and don't stand on your port if they are sitting on you. So what that means is if you're here and you have like a melee team that's charging at you over here or over here, just roll away from your port, because you want to make sure they have to travel as far as possible to get to you. And don't port unless they use mobility. So if you're playing against a warrior, don't port unless he uses a charge, heroic leap, or if a demon hunter needs to use like their double. If a demon hunter needs to use their double jump or anything like that, make sure they use mobility, or their fell rushes. Make sure they have to use their mobility before you port, because that's a waste. A really big tip here for kiting melee. Now let's say you put your port down here and they're already on you. You have a artifact trait called Spirit Tether right here. Your Transcendent Spirit reduces the movement speed of nearby enemies by 50%. So what does that mean? That means when they're near this, they're taking 50% movement speed away. So if they're here and they're pushing you, and they're still following you, before you roll, put another port down so they're slowed on both sides of the pillar. Like, they're slowed, unslowed, and then they're slowed again, and then move. They're going to use mobility because they're slowed, and then you port back, and then you're away. I know that was a little much, but hopefully that makes sense. Alright, that was a little rant about positioning and kiting. I hope it was kind of helpful. That Spirit Tether tip hopefully helps people survive a little better, especially around big pillars. It's really helpful, especially on 12 or on. It's really nice. So let's get right into the healing. Sorry. So you put your statue down. You got your port ready. Now, if someone's taking single target damage, before even that, make sure that when the game starts, you use Thunder Focus Tea and just put Renewing Mists on all your teammates. Whether you're pushing in or not, it's really helpful to just have Renewing Mist on your party members. It's a nice small heal, but it's definitely helpful. Now, if they're taking single target pressure, you're going to want to, first off, put an Enveloping Mist on them. It increases the healing received by the monk by 70%. That's crazy. Like, it's awesome. So make sure it's enveloping. If they're still taking pressure, put Fuse on. Now the Fuse is going to put Fortune Turned On, increases the healing received by the monk's Fuse by 50%. It stacks twice, okay? So what does that mean? That means, let's say they're using their cooldowns and you want to use Mana Tea instead of your bubble. Remember, use your Mana Tea, try and stagger your Mana Tea and bubble. You're going to want to use Mana Tea, put Enveloping up. So you got the Enveloping, and then you're going to want Fortune Turned, 2 stacks and Enveloping, Thunder Focus Tea, and then Empowered Fuses. I mean, I can't even tell you. I mean, I can look at the log real quick, but the amount of healing that is just the Fuses alone. Fuse 770,000. It's crazy. It's just 800. Oh no, that's custom mist. 3 million from Fuse. 3 million. 3.4 million heal from Fuse. So I'm gonna say that again. So, and I'll probably put a text on the screen so to make it easier. Make sure you have Enveloping, and then you have Fuse, and then you're gonna want to empower them with Thunder Focus Tea, and then Fuse. Make sure they always have Renewing Mist active on whoever's taking damage. So whether it be single target or not, try and have Renewing Mist on as many teammates as possible. It's really important to do that. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for, I mean, healing is pretty easy. Now, outside of, that's basically how you heal. It's unlike PvE. You don't use Vivify, you don't use Essence Font, ever. Not even RBGs. So, make sure you have Chi Waves active, Renewing Mist off cooldown, same with Chi Wave, and put Enveloping Mist on the teammate taking the most damage. And, that's pretty much it. You have Revival. Use Revival. If you're playing against a melee cleave, use it whenever your team is getting low and you want to get the cooldown rolling. That's fine. Make sure Enveloping Mist is active because remember, it increases the healing from you by 70%. So that means Revival is going to be healing for 70% more. So that's pretty good. That's really good. That's pretty much it for single target. Now, if you're playing against a spread pressure team. Alright, so how do you heal against spread pressure teams? Well, you're going to want to change your talents to Counteract Magic. This is my last tome, by the way. There's a Counteract Magic, Healing Sphere, Chi-Ji, and Focus Thunder. So basically, you're still, the same principles apply. Renewing Mist and Chi Wave off cooldown, just for the little bit of healing and, you know, the damage is pretty good. And basically, if it's Boomy, Shadow Priest, any combination of those casters, and you're playing melee, when they get grouped up and they connect, and let's say they stun the target, put 2 orbs down. Just put 2 orbs down real quick. While they're moving and trying to kill the Warlock or whatever, they're gonna run through these. So it's important to just put those down and announce it in voice that you're putting orbs down so that they can look for them. If you're not in voice, you're gonna have to play a little bit better and, you know, proactively put down orbs. So let's say this orb over here, the Warlock is over here, and your melee are pushing in. By the way, that's the danger zone. So let them know, don't push in. Oh, don't push in over there, because that's the danger zone over there. But they're pushing over here. Just put 2 orbs down. If only one gets a spell, just dispel the other party member, and it's pretty good. Healing Spheres is good. You can use it while kicked, but you can't use it while silenced. So if you get kicked by a Warlock and they're starting to put out UAs, you can still put orbs down to try and reduce as much damage as you can. If you're playing against a team with a melee and they're going to be sitting you, so I played the other day against RLS with Assassination Rogue, Affliction Warlock, and it's going to be in a video that I'm probably going to upload Friday or Saturday. The Rogue is probably going to be swapping to you, so put an orb down by right here, your little Transcendence, so when he swaps to you with poisons and stuff, you can pour it. It dispels all of your dots. It makes a world of difference. I mean, you could just forget about it. Just make sure you put it on your port. But they're really helpful. So just put an orb down by your statue or your Transcendence if you feel like the melee is going to be swapping to you, and they have dots. So let's talk about team comps. Oh, this is going to be fun. So as a monk, unfortunately, you don't have that many options. I've tried to play other options, but there are some classes that you actually can't heal. And some examples are Affliction Warlocks. Can't heal them, because if you're in crowd control, they're just going to die. Shadow Priests. Can't heal a Shadow Priest. Rogues. Can't heal a Rogue. What else? Rep Pallies. Believe it or not. Can't heal those guys. You want to play with teams or classes or specs that can survive by themselves, because you can be put into like 20 seconds of crowd control. So that means your Death Knights, your Warriors, your Demon Hunters that are good at kiting. Rets, if they know how to kite. I played Ret Death Knight, and the Ret knew how to kite, so he was able to survive. But basically your melee cleaves Turbo. Enhance, unfortunately, is surprisingly weak. They only have one defensive cooldown, so you're going to need to be very, very proactive when it comes to crowd control in your life cocoon. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, you're gonna want to stick with the melee cleaves. It's just better. If one person's getting low, they don't have to kite out. You can just bubble them and just keep them going. If they both get stunned by Mind Bomb, you can revival and just keep the momentum going. So yeah, you're gonna want to run with melee cleaves. When it comes to mana, that is the second issue that monks have. The other issue is actually surviving. Mana is your worst enemy in an arena. It's not the other team, it's your own mana. The good thing about that is that you can actually do something about it. So where do we begin? So let's say you're playing against a dot cleave and you're trying to maintain your Vim and Vigor with trying to stay above 80% health. Don't ever Soothing Mist, Effuse, or Envelop yourself if they're not on you. Ever. Don't ever. You can use Healing Spheres. It costs no mana. It's 0 mana. And if you're at 60%, you just Healing Sphere, done. You have your Vim and Vigor back, and it costs no mana. So you always put a Renewing Mist on yourself, obviously, if your other two party members have it. But this way, you maintain your Vim and Vigor easily for no mana. So keep that in mind. Don't ever use enveloping on yourself if they're not swapping to you. Now, if you are playing against a team that can swap to you, make sure you at least have one healing elixir in case they do make that swap to you and you're in a stun. What other for mana? So I know that there are people, I've watched streams of people. So let's say the other team is DH Warrior, and the Warrior is popping, I don't know, Battle Cry, and the Demon Hunter just stunned an artifact weapon. I don't know if that add-on's gonna let me. Nah, it's not gonna let me. So like right out here, don't try and heal through it. Do not try and enveloping, effuse, and then try and don't. If you have your cooldowns, don't ever try and just heal through it. You're gonna want to just trade it for bubble. And look, your teammate is safe, or you're safe. And it costs like 2% of your mana, and it's fine. It's fine that it's okay to use bubble early. It's fine. It's a relatively short cooldown. Well, if you have Chrysalis, it's a relatively short cooldown, and you'll get it up soon. Plus, your teammates have defensive, so you're fine. You just use 2% of your mana. That's great. So let's say they staggered their cooldowns, and now the Illidan or the DH just used his Illidan. But you don't have bubble anymore. You still have Mana Tea. I spec'd out of it and I don't have any tombs, but you have Mana Tea now. So try and not get kicked, obviously. So if they're like out in the middle of the map, you know, you're fine, right? But use Mana Tea, and then you can spam your enveloping, your FUs, you know, do your FUs, and then use your Thunder Focus Tea, FUs, and then once again, you've only used about maybe 5% of your mana. So by staggering your Mana Tea and and Life Cocoon, you are able to use 5% of your mana to out heal a warrior and DH's cooldowns. That's really good. And then from there on out, just make sure you maintain your Renewing Mist, your Chi Wave. And now, one last thing I want to talk about when it comes to mana, besides staggering your cooldowns, is Enveloping Mist. So Enveloping Mist costs 66,000 mana. Let's see how much. That's what? That's 6%. That's about 5 or 6% of your mana. So obviously, if you're spamming Enveloping Mists, you're gonna go really fast. So what does that mean? Enveloping Mist is not like Rejuvenation or Riptide or I don't even know what HP values have, or Power Word Shield. You don't use it off cooldown, or you don't use it as much as you can. If you have a teammate at 90% health and you're not in crowd control and you don't think you're in crowd control, do not use Enveloping Mist. When your teammate is at 70% and you know they're starting to use cooldowns or you're starting to struggle, then you can use your Enveloping Mist. And don't refresh it until this is gone, because it's you're not getting any benefit out of refreshing it when it's not over yet. And that's important. That was like the biggest thing that I had trouble with, was I always thought I had to constantly like keep Enveloping Mist active. All right, it's at 3 seconds. All right, gotta refresh it. No, now it's important that if you see a mage casting poly on you and you can't line it, then yeah, do make a Thunder Focus Tea enveloping, something like that, right before you get into crowd control. But you know, it's important to just try to not refresh it as often as possible. Try and rotate Life Cocoon with Mana Tea. You also have Revival. Yeah. Chi Wave. I have a Provoke built into Chi Wave. That's like the most complicated macro I have. That's just with like the perfect timing, I could taunt a pet before trap, or taunt a pet before polymorph, you know, something like that. Yeah, I provoke macro is pretty good. I got rid of this provoke macro because I kept using it in PvP or PvE. So yeah, so this is my stop casting macro. This is this right here. If I hit it, it's not Life Cocoon. Oh. It's not Life Cocoon. It's Tiger Palm. So, you could just do that. I think there's a toy. No. Yeah, here we go. So, if I'm near somebody and I really want to fist weave and I'm using Way of the Crane, I just do this. I mean, I'll do another, whatchamacallit, for fist weaving. I think I did a guide on it, but I can update it. I still use it in RBGs. So yeah, besides that, there's nothing really too complicated. These are provokes, but I don't use them. Arena 1, 2, 3. So these are probably the most important macros to have, are Arena 1, 2, 3. I have them right. Man, see, my add-ons haven't updated yet. Right here, my Arena 1, 2, 3 is right here for Alt 1, 2, 3 for paralysis. It's really good. That way you could heal a target, or you could Chi Wave a target, and then paralysis an enemy without even have to like untarget this guy. It's really good. It helps with preventing crowd control on you, like polys and stuff. Which Life Cocoon do I use? This one. Yeah. This is my Life Cocoon macro. So I see it a lot when I play against monks. If you, let's say you're an RBG and your FC was about to die, or someone was about to die, and you hit bubble. Oh no. That wasn't supposed to happen. I was targeting myself. Okay, if you're not targeting somebody, it won't go off. That was a fail, by the way. I wasn't supposed to be targeting anything. So it wouldn't work if you're not targeting anybody, or if somebody's dead. If you're targeting somebody that's dead, it won't go off. it'll only go off, or Life Cocoon will only work if you're targeting somebody like another player or pet. Something like that. It won't go off if you're playing against somebody or targeting somebody that's dead or not there. Another really important macro are detox macros for party 1 and 2 and yourself. So right here, my Arena 1 and 2 macros for detoxing. They're pretty good for making really, really fast dispels and whatchamacallit. Oh, here it is. This is my cursor macro for the healing spheres, by the way. So as you can see, put the orbs down right where my cursor is, right here. Bam, right there. So you don't have to target it. It makes things faster. I'm glad I found that. But detox really fast dispels. It really helps with you know, your DPS and stuff. Finally, I have this script right down here. I didn't get it from Cedar's stream, even though I did try his, but I lag when I use Cedar's scripts. This one is from somebody on the forums, and basically, if you're using raid style party frames and you click this script, you'll always be on the bottom, and it'll always, so like if you use targeting macros 1 and 2, like I do, 1 will be on top, 2 will be on the bottom every time. So that's pretty good. It's really helpful for dispelling. Rest in peace, Thunder Focus Tea, with Trinket. But yeah, that's pretty much it for macros, everything. That's pretty much it for the guide. Hopefully this isn't too long. I'll try and edit out some parts so that you know, it's not too long. But hopefully everyone enjoyed this. Hopefully somebody learned something. Monks are doing fine. If there's anything I would change, like if someone were to ask me, or like Blizzard like contacted me and said, what can we do to make monks like viable? Man, what would I do? I would give us a damage reduction. So something like, what if diffuse magic could be placed on anybody on your team? Like, let's say, what if you could use it on, you know, anyone, even in a raid? That'd be cool, right? Like something like, we need something like that. What if dampened harm could be used on a teammate? That'd be pretty cool, right? Like baseline, like they make one of these baseline, and then, you know, there's another. I mean, no bias here or anything, but I really do think we need dematerialize back. I'm not trolling. I think we need dematerialize back. We need something back. Basically, we need a damage reduction for teammates. You know, like kind of like an Iron Bark, but you know, they're not gonna give us that because that's a druid thing. So I don't know, something to prevent crowd control, like almost like a grounding totem. Also, I would like something to do with our statue, like what was it, the dragon breath in WoD. That was such a cool talent. I wish there was something to do with our statue that we could do. But yeah, that's pretty much it. They're probably, I mean, that's the best you can do. Something damage reduction for your teammates, you know, something like this, anything. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope everyone enjoyed. This is probably gonna be the last one of the expansion. It's pretty exciting. Hope everyone is enjoying Argus. The raid looks sick. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope everyone enjoyed. I'll do a PvE guide soon. And yeah, I'll see you later.